Back in Bloomington, it's not the Indiana Ice Hockey preview show. No, it's the Club Ice Hockey at Indiana University bye-week show and a bye-week breakdown, with the club having a bye week this week and with 3 weeks already in the book in the 2019-2020 ACHA season. Casey Roehl with you. And how about this? Jake Toppin joins us from Bloomington in our Indiana Hockey studios. He's usually behind the cameras and running social media. Both Brandon Schaff out with Sam Wexler also out. Jake Toppin's pinch hitting, and I'll tell you what, he got the no time memo, so he's already on put. Jake, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great. It's a Thursday night in Bloomington, and typically we'd be at Frank Southern Ice Arena, but we've got you set up right here in our Bloomington studios. And Jake, throughout the first 3 weeks of the season, lots have gone on. We've seen just about everything from shootout wins to overtime losses and to regular season wins, regulation wins. But throughout the first 2 weeks, it was mostly the freshmen and the underclassmen showing out. This last weekend, the split against Bradley University, you were on hand in that series. What are some of your biggest takeaways?
The team is young, and I feel like Newman's a great coach. We all love him. I think they need to focus on staying out of the penalty box. They're young, but they're getting a lot of penalty minutes, and Raftis is probably leading the team in penalty minutes. But if they can stay out of the penalty box, they should have won both games at Bradley. On Friday night, they won 6-1, and Saturday they should have won, but they were in the penalty box too much. So I think that the focus needs to be stay on the penalty box and keep your head on straight, and the team will keep winning. They're young, but they're good. At
the bye week, Indiana's 3-2-1. The overtime loss came last Saturday against Bradley. That was the last game and the most recent game that the program played. They have a bye week this week with Rutgers in town for football with homecoming. And then next week they play against Cincinnati, who made it to the ACHA Division II National Championship semifinal, where they lost to the eventual champion in Florida Gulf Coast. So Cincinnati is going to be a very aggressive team, one of the better teams that's on the Indiana schedule. What's one of the more interesting storylines, and what should fans take away from the series next week, whether or not Indiana splits, if they sweep, or if they get swept?
They need to pay attention to how the young guys and the freshmen react to playing against one of the better teams in Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a great team, and if IU can go in there and even steal a game, that would be huge for the program and the young guys. You know how much that would boost their confidence? So if they can come out with a win or two next week, if they sweep Cincinnati, great. But if they come out with a win, it'll be great for the team.
And in Indiana, they've also got more TSCHL opponents on their schedule. After Cincinnati next week, they play home again against Ohio. That's on October 25th and October 26th. So Cincinnati, a former TSCHL league team. Ohio, one of the more powerhouse programs traditionally in the TSCHL. That's also on the schedule. So back-to-back weekends with teams that are primed to make national championship pushes. Andrew Newman had mentioned at the beginning of the season that regionals is the goal for the program after coming one ranking shy last season. What's the biggest thing that this program has to overcome in order to make regionals this year?
Just take every one game by itself, 1-0 every week, and that's Cincinnati this week, and then so on, whoever they play. They need to just keep their head on straight. Keep their heads on straight.
Who are one of the more younger players and either first-year, second-year players who have really stood out to you so far?
I like Kid Kenyon a lot. I think he stood out. He's got stick handles all right, but he's one of the players I would say stands out to me the most because he seems like he can skate well, he's quick, and he knows how to use his hands with the stick.
So we mentioned offense being one of the things that's catapulted Indiana so far, but Jake, Andrew Newman's known more as a defensive-minded head coach. He preaches defense first, and you can't talk defense without this Indiana net-minding trio of Stephen Gaiser, Cameron McNamara, and Joseph Stebbins. We talked about McNamara, but Gaiser on Friday in his first game of the season at Frank Southern Ice Arena, he looked dominant as well, only allowing one goal against Bradley.
Yeah, in the 6-1 win over Bradley, he was extraordinary. He had 45 saves in the game. And then on Saturday, McNamara in net. Of course, the team couldn't stay out of the penalty box, so it kind of left the team shorthanded, 5-on-3s, 5-on-4s. So I wouldn't really put McNamara as much to blame on Saturday because I think he played really well too. But Gaiser on Friday night, extraordinary. He was stopping everything, pad save, glove save. He was getting everything. He was stopping everything. He was a brick wall. Bradley couldn't find a way to get it in net. They got one goal. He played great. Amazing.
It was the first game and the first series of the season at Frank Southern Ice Arena. Jake, your initial takeaways from one of the smaller rinks in the country were?
the puck was bouncing around a lot. The ice. A lot of the players were telling us about how the ice was a little chippy. So, for the type of place that Indiana plays at, they do a good job. And like Vladislav Khrushch said earlier, it's dump and chase. And so that's what the team is going to have to do all season at the Frank, because it's not state of the art, but they make it work.
Vladislav Khrushch in his second season with the program, already 5 goals in his first 6 games. He sat down with us, and will sit down with us as we take a look at Vladislav Khrushch's tenure in Bloomington. And we talked to the man out of Latvia they call the Crusher when we return on the Club Ice Hockey at Indiana University bye-week preview after this timeout. Indiana sophomore forward Vladislav Khrushch now joins us from Bloomington. Vlad, it's interesting to note simply because lots of people come to Bloomington for different reasons. Obviously, when you look at hockey, it takes this very specific person to play club hockey, but you travel over 3,000 miles to come to southern Indiana and to lace up the skates on weekends just for the fun of it. Take me through that.
Yeah, I went to a prep school, I tried to play college hockey, I tried to play juniors, didn't work out, so I decided to attend Kelly School of Business because I got a scholarship. I didn't play my freshman year, I focused on academics, played drop the puck, then met a lot of guys, I liked them, and so now I'm part of the team.
It's not very often that you find people that have things in common with you, but I spent my freshman season up in upstate New York. You were at Northfield Mount Herman, that's in Springfield, so in a similar vicinity. What are some of the things that you enjoyed about your time at the East Coast?
I mean, people are very different. It's more European, more European culture. I enjoyed it. It's a different team. All my line mates play Division 1 club hockey right now, and I'm here at Indiana, but I still have good GPA. I kind of wish I could play, but I still love guys on our team, and I'm glad I have an opportunity to play right now.
What's your GPA this year so far?
3.93 so far.
3.93. I can't say the last time I had a 3.5. My mom's a school teacher, and she said that my goal entering college should be a 3.5. I want to say my last time I had a 3.5 was my senior year of high school, so it's been a while. But let's go back to talking about your time playing prep hockey at Northfield Mount Herman, playing with some players who had Division I offers. What were some things you took away from that, and how did that make you a better hockey player?
I mean, it's a different game style. Game was different. We played 17 minutes period, different practices. People were very serious about ice hockey. We had workout before the ice. Every single person took ice hockey seriously. My friends and I, we were stick handling every day before the practice to get better. And it's more attitude. Tempo of the game was different. All people were playing AAA during the fall, and then we played against great teams like Dexter, Philip Sander, Philip Exeter, something like that. Yeah.
Going from different regions of not just the country, but in the world, from Riga, Latvia, to parts of Moscow, to Springfield, Massachusetts, now to Bloomington. What are the different styles of hockey that you've played? Obviously, the East Coast is known as a hockey hotbed, but what's the biggest difference that you've noticed between European style of hockey and American style of hockey?
I mean, I played in a lot of places. I played in Latvia, I played in Russia, I even played in Finland for a season. And the biggest difference probably rink size. In Europe, in Latvia, it's Olympic-sized rink. You have more space and time to make a decision. You can skate around. You can actually stick handle. When you go to Finland, it's a bit medium-sized stadium, and so you need to make decisions quicker. And when you come to the US, you actually need to put your head up because you can be murdered on the ice. So it's all about decision-making, execution. More shots here, definitely, and your head always should be up or you will get injured. I had few injuries during my prep career, yeah.
What style of play suits your game style? What style of play do you think suits you best?
It depends. Now probably American style because I'm adjusted to that, to small size rinks, especially when we're playing at Frank. It's a tiny rink, it's way different to any other rinks. And you go and battle for the puck all the time, just corners, and you don't have a lot of time actually to stick handle. It's all about go and get it.
Let's stick with the adjustment period. Last season was your first year playing at Indiana University with head coach Andrew Newman. Adjusting to the size of the rink at Frank Southern, you put up 5 goals in your freshman season. We're 3 weeks into this season. You've already got 5 goals throughout the first month of the 2019-20 campaign. What were some of the adjustments you made throughout the off-season? What were some things you took away from your first year with the program?
I mean, it's just we have a different team right now, different line mates, lines changed. I got more, this year I actually get more opportunity, more responsibility to play. I have more ice time. I was working hard always, and so it just pays off. Over the summer, I skated on my own, just got to rental ice for $10 in Russia, so it's cheaper. I just was skating, shooting pucks, and I guess it paid off because I was in the shape when I came here, and right now conditioning kind of helps, but I still getting into my shape, not ready yet.
With Andrew Newman as your head coach, earlier this year and at the early stages of August, he had said one of the players that he had high expectations coming into this year was yourself after building off of your freshman season last year. How does playing for Newman and this program in general suit your play style, and what are some of the things that you've taken away in your development stage at this point in your hockey career? I mean,
Newman does a great job as a coach. He tries to make lines based on your talents. I have very talented skill-wise line mates. I'm playing with Austin Ang and Grimes, Everett Grimes. Both of them are better than me in terms of skills. But Newman found a great chemistry between us because I have a bigger size, I can crush the net, and it pays off because he actually taught me how to be at the right position, at the right spot to score goals. And all those exercises he gave us during the practices actually helped me to score, to find this position. He draws on the board. If we listen to him, he shows us where the puck's gonna be, and so we practiced over the practice, and that's how I score. I know that puck gonna rebound from for example, from the middle to the right side. I will be there, and I will score.
You had mentioned a bit earlier throughout this week and last week that this year's team is different for a couple reasons. One, Christian Sherman-Colicchio, the all-time leading goal scorer in program history. He's no longer with the team. Trent Kunis, who was third all-time in penalty minutes, he's no longer with the team. Going from last year's program, which put up a program record in goals scored, to this season with 14 freshmen, with only 2 returners from last season's first-year class, you and Cade Kenyon. What would you say the identity of this year's team is?
I mean, the team is pretty much more talented than last year, even though, Christian left the team. We have a lot of talent, Socrates Raftis, he has great abilities, great shot. We have Christian, Adam, our whole, third line is, incredible in terms of talent. And right now, I feel we have a lot of potential. We need just to get in shape. We're kind of short in conditioning right now. A lot of people cannot make practices because of the exams, but I feel we will get better as a team. We'll bring our spirit up. We had a difficult practice on Tuesday. We did some conditioning, but I feel it's gonna pay off next week when we play against Cincinnati.
Going back onto the road, speaking of the road, you started the season in DePaul, that's up in Chicago, went to Ohio State and Columbus for the first ever TSCHL matchup, had home series last weekend against Bradley. Now going back onto the road, with the amount of time that the team either spends on the road in consecutive stretches or at home in consecutive stretches, how do you guys adjust from going to a smaller rink shape at Frank Southern to more regulation-sized rinks when you're on the road?
We just prepare mentally, There is no special preparation. Thank God we have some practices here. We can just get used to that. We can run power play, especially since we have smaller middle zone. We need to practice it, how to get the puck, because it's easy to get a breakout in Frank. It always happens to us. You just need to dump puck in and dump and chase pretty much. That's how we prepare.
Well, going a little bit from the actual hockey terms to a little bit more out yourself, we've got a man from Riga, Latvia joining us in Bloomington. You've got one of the more dubious nicknames in program history, the Crusher. And it's not spelled how you'd initially spell Crusher with the C. It's spelled with a K. Your last name starts with a K. How'd that nickname get away? How'd that transpire?
So pretty much my coach, in a prep school, he was struggling to pronounce my last name. It was KHRUSHCH, it's a lot of letters, and he was damn, it's hard. I will just call you I guess, what can I do, Crusher? And then he yeah, it corresponds to your style. I used to play more aggressive when I was in a prep school. I'm still playing aggressive all the time in the corner. I'm battling hard as I can, and I'm trying to score. I always go to the net. It's my game style, and that's why I feel Crusher suits me well.
Do you have any other nicknames growing up, or is that your one nickname that you stuck throughout since you got the nickname?
Honestly, people wouldn't risk to give me a nickname. Yeah. I don't think, no, I didn't have any nicknames. Just Vlad. Just my name, just short version of my name.
Just your name. Vlad's a pretty cool name. Khrushch is a name that many will have problems spelling. I know I did when I first saw the last name, but the Crusher works well. I have a couple other nicknames, but those aren't exactly ones that would be suitable for the FCC airwaves with people that I talk to in my spare time. But sticking with spare time, obviously the weekends are either spent doing I-Corps or in the Advanced I-Corps program in the Kelley School of Business or at various rinks, either in Bloomington or across the country. But this week we've got an off week. It's homecoming in Bloomington. Rutgers is in town for football. When you have the very rare off weekend, what are some things you like doing with your spare time?
I mean, I love going to the gym, hanging out with my friends. Like, they usually come and visit me, like, from different dorms, like off campus. I can get like food in the restaurant, for example. But I still gonna study this week because like I have coming up interviews next week. I'm still trying to recruit for investment banking, since I'm part of investment banking workshop, and I have a lot of commitment even on homecoming week. And like I actually signed a contract, so I have to do something like to improve the program. And we're actually now trying to recruit kids for next investment banking workshop class. And I'm also a teacher assistant for introduction to investment banking class, and so I have few quizzes to grade, I have resumes to grade, so I have some work to do. And of course I'm gonna do my homework to have a spare week next week, because I have a birthday next week, so I'm trying to work ahead.
Getting ready for the internship season at Kelley's a bit different, considering that many people get hired after junior summers when they get ready to graduate their senior year. When you get ready and have that time get ahead of you, what's the ideal job for you? You mentioned investment banking, you mentioned other stuff at the Kelley School. What's the ideal job once you're done with school?
I mean, for me, it's investment banking. I love numbers, I love financial modeling, and like I feel like I'm good with that, because usually people like from Europe, from Russia, have a quantitative thinking more than like, and it would help me, like, and you make a lot of money too, like when you're working as a banker, and you don't really have life, but you learn a lot, you become an industry expert, you learn how to model like discounted cash flow, leverage buyouts models, and it's all useful like in the future.
What's the starting salary for that job? It sounds like with numbers, and with numbers comes more numbers, and at times more numbers means more zeros at the end of the paycheck. What's the starting pay for that job?
It depends on the bank, but like base salary is $85,000 a year, and then like you can earn bonuses. It depends on you. It's pretty much how hard you work, based on your performance, based on your evaluations, and based on your team too.
So there's a good chance you might not have too many student loans once you're done with school, or once you get into the job force.
I don't have any student loans now. Yeah, I might take a loan to get a car, you know. I can use my salary to pay it off in the future.
Well, I wish I was in that same boat without student loans, but hey, we can only be so lucky. But obviously, Riga, Latvia is far away from Bloomington, and for a town that's well diverse with its culture, with some other people who come from other nations, what's the main food choice for you when you're back home in Latvia or you're back in Moscow over the summer? What type of food, most importantly, do they eat over there? Because I feel like you know a lot about other cultures, the Asian culture, the South American culture, but what's there to eat in Russia or in Latvia that really is a must whenever you're back home?
It's a hard question. We eat all kinds of food in Russia. Probably it's going to be like something like mashed potatoes with chicken, like traditional Russian meals, or Russian pancakes, which my mother makes for me. But we usually eat like pizza, sushi, all the same stuff, like all the same restaurants like we have here. It's not a huge difference, maybe a bit better and cheaper.
What's in a Russian pancake? I've never heard of a Russian pancake.
It's a bit thinner, like, you know, it's a different one. We usually like eat it with like fresh jelly or made of raspberry. We put caviar inside. It's almost the same, but like thinner, different taste. It's hard to make because I cannot cook, but my mom can.
Hey, I'm in that same boat with you, man. I haven't cooked once since I came back down here for school. I think I've cooked maybe 2 or 3 times in general since I transferred down here, so don't worry, I'm in that very same boat with you. But Vladislav Khrushch joining us here in Bloomington for our bye-week preview. Indiana takes on Cincinnati in a couple weeks, a bye week this weekend. But Vlad, before we let you go, any last things that you'd like to mention? Any way that people can follow you on social media? I know you're a very specific guy when it comes to Instagram and Twitter, but if people want to follow the Crusher on social media, where can they follow you at?
It's hard. It's just like my first name, Vlad, then IK88. You're probably wondering why 88. It's my favorite number. I wish I could take it here, but we don't have 88. So just try to find me on our Instagram page, probably.
Indiana junior on his transcript, Perfect. Indiana sophomore with the hockey program. I got to talk with Andrew about how that's set up, but sophomore with the Indiana hockey program, Vladislav Khrushch joining us in Bloomington. The Indiana program takes on Cincinnati in 2 weeks when they hit the road up to the west. So for Vladislav Khrushch, Casey Roehl, Jake Toppin joins us back in a moment when we return on the Club Ice Hockey at Indiana University bye-week preview. Back in Bloomington. So Jake, talking with Vlad and hearing how he came to Bloomington and about his tenure with the program as well. He's one of the younger players on the team. He and Cade Kenny, the only sophomores on the program, but it's a heavy freshman-laden class, and there are a couple who have really stood out so far. None more notable than Christian Champel, who had 3 goals last week in the Bradley Series. How has he adjusted to college hockey, and what are some things that really stood out to you about his play?
He's a quick kid, and he skates well. I think that he's doing a great job. Like you said, he had 3 goals in the Bradley Series, so we know he can score, and he looks like he's comfortable out there. He looks like a veteran. He's, like I said, skating well, and he's scoring. So if he can continue to do that, and he seems to be gelling with the team, I think this team's going to be pretty good, and he's going to grow to be one of their best players.
Champel became only the second freshman to score 2 goals in a single game this season. Jack Kissel in the opener against DePaul was the only other one, but with freshmen comes growing pains, and with growing pains come experience issues. But so far, Andrew Newman's team is really gelled around the idea of the system and how the program works. How does this team, with the personnel they have stacked right now, really fit into the way Newman preaches his team and the way that he plays his systems?
Newman's a very straightforward guy, and he's an in-your-face type of guy, but it's all for the best. He wants his team to play well and have a good record at the end of the season. It's club hockey, but he takes it very seriously. I think that he's gritty and he gets down to business, and I think that's what this team emphasizes, and I think that's what they're going to continue to emphasize throughout the season. You can tell they get a little antsy out there, if not a little angry sometimes. So I think that's what he emphasizes, and I think that's what the team will continue to emphasize throughout the season.
As we look ahead throughout the rest of the Indiana season and to Cincinnati coming up next week, what's one thing that has to happen for this program in order to take that next step, which Andrew Newman continues to say is regionals? We have to get to regionals, and that's our goal, getting to regionals. What has to happen outside of sitting in the penalty box for this team to really strive and to make that regional push?
Yeah, sitting out of the penalty box is huge, but the one thing I think they need to emphasize is time of possession. At the Frank, obviously the ice isn't so great, so you're going to probably have better ice to play on when you go on road games. So I think time of possession is one thing they need to focus on, because when you're at the Frank, you're just dump and chase, like Vladislav said. So time of possession, get the puck in your zone, and fire away.
Since the start of September of 2018, Indiana's outscored opposing teams 55-32 at Frank Southern Ice Arena when Andrew Newman became a head coach for the first time last season. Before he lets you go, be sure to follow the program on social media, Hockey at IU on Instagram, Hockey_IU on Twitter, and on Snapchat at IU Hockey. And follow us on Facebook at Indiana University Ice Hockey. For all home broadcasts for the Club Ice Hockey at Indiana University, pregame show coverage begins 20 minutes before each scheduled puck drop. The next home game is against Ohio University, October 25th and October 26th. The next time the program's in town and on the ice, that's against Cincinnati next week, when Indiana goes west of the border to take on one of the top programs in the ACHA at the preseason poll. For Jake Toppin, you can follow him on Twitter at JakeToppinSP for live game updates, along with the club program Twitter at Hockey_IU. Casey Roehl also saying so long for the final time in Bloomington. Be sure to catch Indiana at home next time against Ohio on October 25th. You've been watching the Club Ice Hockey at Indiana University bye-week breakdown on the Indiana Hockey YouTube page.